So lemel.org, this is completely generated from Doxa. So it's a, I'm generating it at the moment as a demonstration site. So everything you see here is straight from Doxa. And the reason I'm emphasizing that is I know that you're interested in using Doxa for your liturgical services, and you will be able to use it to generate a complete site, an ages-like site. And if you have a domain name, you can point it to this, or it could be a subdomain off of another domain, can point to it. This is being served by GitLab. Because GitLab, just like Git, has the concept of pages where it'll automatically serve up a website, a static website from a particular folder. And I'll show you that in just a second.
Okay,
but
so this is the font small, so it's liml.org.
Yes, that stands for liturgy in my language.org.
Okay.
And eventually what this is going to have is it's going to be like Ages, but it's going to be for the other languages overseas, like where OCMC works. So Swahili will be here, Spanish. You know, there's a long list of potential languages that'll be here. But at the moment, I'm just using it as a demonstration site.
Okay.
So the menu, there'll be two styles of menus. This is what I call the simple menu. There'll also be an Ages style menu, which in their menu, everything's across the title bar here. This is for help, and all of the text that appears here is set up in a configuration file. So this is just explaining what the menus mean. And this is for calendar of services. Now it should look like Ages. This is what an Ages calendar index looks like. And pick a day, and it shows you the languages that are available or combinations and the media types. And of course, you know, you pick that and there it is. Oh, I should show you that I have stubbed out PDFs.
I found that you pointed me to previously.
Okay, so what I've done is everything is working for the PDF generation pipeline, except for the details of the content, which is what you'll be working on.
Okay.
And then if I go into books, Father Seraphim wanted to use a different type of approach for the indexes. It's an accordion, and I'm hoping it'll start out like this. At the moment, it's expanding the first one, which is kind of annoying. But and I think what I'll do is I'll probably set it up so people can say, do you want an accordion style index or not? Anyway, this is an accordion style. And so what I've done is I have two dated services available, Divine Liturgy for July 5th and 6th for 2020, and I have two books available, so Small Blessing of the Waters and the Wedding. So I felt that those gave us enough of the variety of things that you use in a template that we had complete coverage of the liturgical markup language. So your mission will be to reproduce the PDF content for these guys. Now, here is the site as it's generated by Doxa. So what it does, see, this is OCMC Lemel site in GitLab.
Okay.
And there's a assets folder, configs. Here's where the database lives. I'll come back to public in a second. The actual templates. So like if I come in here, if I go to dated services, this SC means, can you read that okay?
That I can. The smaller than that, no.
Okay. So this SC means service, month 7, day 5. LI is liturgy. And LML means it's using the liturgical markup language.
Okay.
So if I open this up, you can see what it looks like. I think we went over this before in the first presentation.
It's been a while, so it helps to see.
Yeah. So it has an ID. It says what type it is, and there's 3 types: service, a book, or a block. And a block is reusable template components.
Mm-hmm.
What service it is, its status. If it's a service, you set the month and the day, and optionally the year. This information right here is not used for HTML generation. It's for the PDF.
Right.
And this will be really important for you. So you see there's headers and there's footer information, and even page or odd page. And for each one, it can be left, center, or right. And I think they call it parity. Mm-hmm. So in this case, it's just defining the content of the center part of the even page header.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this information, everything from a template, will be presented to you in the PDF generation in what I call an atom, which is an abstract template, but we'll get to that.
Okay.
You won't even be at this point dealing with templates directly. But later, after you get done with PDF generation, then I'll work with you in depth so you understand how templates work, because I assume you'll want to build templates. I'm going to convert all of Father Seraphim's templates over to the liturgical markup language. So for your purposes, you can take those and you can use those as a starting point then for whatever it is you plan to do. But that's for a later date. I'm just telling you this now so it's in the back of your mind. Okay, so if I go back here, this directory is the magic part, because the way GitLab serves up a static website for us is if you have a directory called public. And so the site builder in Doxa is building the content of this folder. So here's the CSS that gets loaded, the images, the JavaScript. The H folder is for generated HTML. The P folder is for generated PDF. And the way this works, so see here's B is for books, S is for services. Let's take this one. So if I come in here, almost down to the bottom of the path, so these are the languages that it was generated for: English and Greek and English. I'll just go into English. And what you see here is here's the actual PDF, but there's an index HTML that loads the PDF.
Okay.
So this will all get automatically generated, and all you'll be focusing on, as I said, is the content in the PDF file.
Right.
So that is the public directory. It also, the builder will automatically generate an index of what books are available, and this is the home page. It's not the books index, home page. And then here's the services index. And the services index actually makes references into an indexes folder. And that's what this is right here. So these are for each day. So year, month, day. So this index is by year and month, and then it lists the days that are available, and that points into that. So this whole thing gets generated when you do doxago build. It builds the website, putting it into the public folder. And in order to do it, it copies the assets into the public folder. So that's where the CSS image in JavaScript is coming from. PDF is going to be really important to you because even though PDFs don't actually use CSS, we actually read that in and it'll be in the atom that's presented to you. So it gives you the formatting information that you're going to need to format each piece within the PDF file. And importantly, we always embed the fonts that we're using in the PDF file.
So you're not dependent on their system fonts.
Exactly. So Ages, here's the ones that Ages is currently using. And at the moment, I think we're not going to use those. We're going to use what they use. What we're going to use is Arimo. So there's those fonts. And at the moment, we're just going to focus on generating Greek and English, but we'll add some tests for Asian languages and for Semitic languages and also Slavonic.
Okay.
I've already done this with a different system I developed that was using LaTeX. So these all work just fine. Here's Slavonic. These are the 3 fonts that I have in there at the moment. I'm sure, if you start doing Slavonic, you can see, do these work or do you need to use something else? That's fine.
Okay.
All right, so this directory then, I'm sorry, I went too far. So there, assets PDF, that doesn't get copied directly over into the website, but you're going to read that information to generate your PDF, and you're going to grab those fonts and you're going to embed them into the PDF. Okay. Let's see. So I think that now there are 2 configs. One is the doxago config, and in it says what realm we're generating for. The realm is the short name or acronym for the website that we're developing. And then it, sorry, my brain misfired. We're looking at configs. Okay, it tells you what build config to use. So here's, yeah. And in the big build config, this is where the user sets the language versions that it wants to build out. So this can be, it's see, combo 1, combo 2. It could be more than that. It could be combo 3, combo 4.
Right.
And there are different libraries that are used for liturgical versus lectionary. And the lectionary, you have the ability to control what version for the Epistle, Gospel, Prophet, and Psalter.
Mm-hmm.
And then here, these are regular expressions that are used to determine what books and services you want to generate. So you can see, for example, I've commented out service for July 7th. When I'm developing, I will comment these guys out and just uncomment this so that the whole build process goes faster.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then here, line 77 and 78, you control what you're building. So for example, for your purposes, you'll probably want to set HTML false while you're doing your PDF work.
Mm-hmm.
And this realm here setting can actually be used in templates, but you can ignore it for now. Something that is important is whether you want to copy the assets every time. And the reason that you might set it to false is because it can take a lot of time for it to copy over Bootstrap, for example, jQuery.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you do it the first time, set it to true, and then after that, set it to false, unless you're changing the JS libraries for some reason.
Okay.
And however, it will always copy over the app.css and the doxa CSS. Now, that's because, well, for HTML, it's not used for PDF, so big deal, ignore it. But the reason I go ahead and always copy that over, irrespective of whether copy assets is false or true, is because as I'm tweaking the CSS, I don't want to copy over the JSS over again.
So when you talk about these copy operations, this would be in a clone in GitLab a fork in GitLab or something else?
Okay, so the very first time you run doxago, or if you're in the doxago directory and you do go run main.go, mm-hmm. and you don't give it any flags, it clones the demo library and initializes, you'll have a C:\\/ doxa library. That's the end user library. It's not the source code. It's confusing, I realize, because doxa, the source code, doxa, the end user's library. But it'll initialize the doxa end user directory and a demo project. And so everything will be right in there, the assets, templates, etc.
And I can see it, so keep going.
Okay. Also in here is where you control what is going to appear on the website. So when we went to limul.org, liturgymylanguage.org, it said in the title, the Liturgy My Language demo. Well, that came from here, from the build config. And let me show you here. If I go to here, you see these cards here, view, calendar, view services. That's right here. Here's the text. Shows what's going to be on the button, what the URL is, what image. So this is completely customizable.
Okay.
And then the same for the help. Here's the help cards. Anyway, we don't need to go over all of this right now, but here's where those texts are coming. Remember I said there's two styles of nav bars. I set simple true. So that's That's
top or left and that kind of thing.
yeah, that's this type right here.
Right.
And I haven't worked on the ages style one yet, but that's
Okay.
what the other style will be.
Mm-hmm.
False will use the ages style. And if you have your own logo, you can control, the height, the width, all that stuff. So anyway, that's what that stuff is. All right, so we go back here. The other thing I want to show you in here is this is what GitLab uses for continuous deployment. I mean, I've configured this.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's deploy, it's going to make a public directory on wherever it's putting the static files itself to serve them up. And it's copying from the public directory and et cetera, et cetera. So that's how this magically will appear. So what it means is that when you've set everything up and you build a site and then you do a push to GitLab, it's going to publish it then to your website. And later, what I'll work on is, it would be good if we have a test site that you can push to versus the production site.
That's sort of what I was thinking of earlier. Yeah.
Yeah, but at the moment we don't have that, but we'll get there. Okay. So I think it's really cool because it's so easy. I mean, if you think of an end user who's not a computer person, but they've learned how to do templates, which of course not everybody's going to be able to do that, have the mentality. Just like I don't care what anybody says, not everybody can be a programmer, right? Not everybody can build templates and do this, but they don't have to know all the ins and outs of websites and stuff like that. It's just going to automatically do all this stuff. All right, so that's that. Let me look at my notes I made for myself, what to cover with you. Did that, did that, did that. Okay, so we've covered all that. So let me go now to back over to, so see here I'm on, this is GitLab/OCMC. So that's an easy way to, get around in here if you couldn't remember where to go. We were just in Lemel.
Right.
I also have the manual in here. This is a work in progress. If I go to doxa.lemel.org, here's the manual. Okay, so I'll be working on that this coming week. Okay. And there's the site we were looking at. So I'll go back. Okay, source code is in Liturgico. And within it, here's the liturgical markup language, which you won't be doing anything with probably.
Right.
So it's Antler based, and I'm having it generate Golang and JavaScript. So the Golang is being used at the moment. Those are incorporated into Doxa. So what I wanted to show you here is the last time we met, I said I was going to set up on the wiki instructions for contributors. So you see it's over here. How to create an issue, but I've already created the one you're going to use.
Yep.
So working an issue, here's all the information for you. So you're gonna, you're gonna make sure that you have the latest version of master, and then you're going to do, for you, it's an enhancement. You're going to do, you're going to do get checkout -B for branch enhancement, and whatever the number is for you.
Mm-hmm.
And then you'll be doing your work. Excuse me. Just a second. Okay. As you do your pushes, do a WIP : work in progress and whatever note you want to make until the final push.
Mm-hmm.
And when you actually start working, you'll go to Issues Boards. And here it is. So it's enhancement number 16. And you'll just drag it over to doing.
Got it.
And then that way that will send out an email notice to everybody that you're working it, and also we can look at the board and see you're working. And when you're finished, you drag it over here into closed.
Okay.
Okay. So that's all you need to know there. All right. So let's actually look in the issue itself for a second. So here's my acceptance criteria. So the user doesn't have to install additional software to do the PDF generation, other than, of course, Doxa needs SQLite.
Mm-hmm.
The resulting PDFs reproduce the content and format of Aegis Initiative's PDFs. And I actually have them right here for you. So when you link, pull these up, you'll see exactly what it is you're trying to reproduce. Okay.
Okay.
This you can defer towards the end after you get everything else going. Generating a table of contents. We do want that. Father Seraphim doesn't do it, but it is going to be very important for, like in Kenya, we're working on a priest service book that's going to be used throughout all of Africa. And we need tables of contents for that.
Absolutely.
Okay. Oh, that's right. Okay, so if it's a monolingual PDF, then it should have two columns. So you go down the left column to the bottom, and then the text starts up at the top of the right column.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And multilingual PDFs, internally, the way we do it is we create rows with, it says cells for each language version. It's actually column. So I should, just a second, let me fix that.
So you're essentially doing the same two columns with section breaks where needed, and so that everything lines up.
Exactly. What we do is each paragraph, where paragraph is defined simply as a line feed carriage return, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So it could be a single word, it could be a phrase, it could be a real paragraph.
Mm-hmm.
Each paragraph is a row.
Got it.
So that way we get our alignment between the texts.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to support up to 3 columns side by side. Initially, you'll just be working on 2, but then I even haven't started the 3rd column yet in HTML. So after the initial success with 2 columns, then we'll go from there. But everything I've done has kept in mind, actually everything I've done is 1 to n columns, but 1 to n is not practical beyond 3.
Right.
Okay.
And it makes the coding easier when we go to 3.
Yeah. Uh, okay, so there we go. We're right here. So there are columns, and the styles used in the PDF are applied based on information in a CSS style sheet.
Which
Now,
we saw.
by the time you see it, it's already going to be read from the style sheet.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not going to directly read the style sheet itself. It's going to be in the Atom, the abstract template. And it'll give you the information for the headers and footers and the content of the PDF and the style sheet information.
Okay.
Now, just a side note, library, version, language can be treated as synonyms, although technically library and version really are true synonyms. Language isn't, but loosely we say, well, we're generating it for these languages, but it's really for a library. And library identifier has 3 components: ISO language code, ISO country code, and a realm. Oh, that's what I said there. Okay. But in everyday conversation, we may say, oh, what versions you're generating for, what libraries you're generating for, what languages. And we can loosely use them as synonyms, but technically, language and library are not synonyms.
Fair enough.
Even if we use it that way. Okay, now I searched around to find native Go packages for PDF generation. The only open source free one I found that looked viable was this one. And I've already imported it into Doxa. So, you know, the stubbed out PDFs I'm generating are using it. So you can go use this link to go to their website and see what they have to say, you know, look at their examples. If you find something better, it's fine. We can make a switch as long as it's free. But for the moment, let's start with this and you know, follow it down the rabbit trail until we discover it won't work. But I think it will work. So you'll tell me in the end. Here's the PDFs you're going to duplicate. And I just realized these are only the Greek English. I'll add the links for, let me write a little to-do for myself. I'll add the links for the English ones so you can see those too. Here I'm telling you how you run the build. So if you're in command doxago, you can do go run main.go. What IDE are you going to use? Are you still there?
Sorry, I was on mute because of an airplane going by.
Oh, no problem. I thought I lost you.
For an IDE, and for that matter, for an editor for this, I had not yet decided. I'm open to suggestions.
Okay, well, what I want to encourage everyone on the team to use is golang by JetBrains.
Okay.
I don't know if you've ever used their products before.
I have not.
Okay. Because if we're all using the same one, then it's easier. But theoretically, you could use anything. You could use Visual Studio Code. But I'm really pleased with what they've done with their Go support. And
okay.
We're going to be in it in just a minute. We're almost to the point where I'm going to go into the code. Oh, how much time do you have, by the way?
2 hours this morning.
Okay, we're good, I think. Holler when we hit a stop. I think we'll finish within 2 hours, but if we start to go
Mhm.
holler. Okay. So your code is going to go in package generators pdf.go.
Mhm.
I'll show you in a minute. There's a method in there, and you're free to create any supporting files, methods. If you feel like there's a need for other package, you're free to do that. You are going to want to create some Go templates. Now, Go templates are not the same thing as liturgical markup language templates.
Mhm.
Just a second. Sorry, I keep coughing here. Okay, so from here, let's jump over. Oh wait, I did create, this is not perfect yet. Can you see this slide okay?
Yes.
Okay. Trouble is if I play it and enlarge it, it's going to be, I have 3 monitors and it'll be off on the wrong one.
No,
So,
this is fine.
okay. So when you run doxago build, one of the things it does is it reads the build.yaml. Remember we saw that where
Mhm.
you set regular expressions that match the IDs of the templates that you're going to use for the build.
Mhm.
And it gets the versions that are going to be used. And it sends that information. It calls a method, a build method in package site.
Mhm.
And what it does is it um, it reads in all of the BK, which are book, or SE, which is service templates that match the regular expressions.
Mhm.
And for each one, it calls the parser. There's another package that's called the resolver. And what the resolver does is for any database resources that are needed, it talks to the database and gets those
Mhm.
and passes them to the parser. It also, at the moment, because I'm reproducing ages, and ages uses file-based templates. At the moment, the resolver is getting templates from the file system. But in the
Mhm.
future, when I have the GUI running, we'll have the option, and it'll be the preferred option, is the templates will be stored in the database.
Mhm.
Okay, so the resolver knows where to go to get the templates and to get the, it also gets the CSS, by the way, and the database resources. It
Mhm.
gives them to the parser. Now, I'm not going to go into it today, but the parser also includes a Antler can generate artifacts that you use in Go, excuse me, that use either a visitor pattern or a listener pattern. And
Mhm.
unfortunately, there is not good documentation for the visitor pattern, and I would have preferred to use it. But so I'm using the listener pattern. And at another time, I'll go over how the listener works and stuff. But anyway, so the listener is what is actually handling the processing of the templates. And it always starts with a book or a service, but that imports blocks. That's the
Mhm.
BL. And a
Right.
block can import a block. So that's what this
Mhm.
represents right here. So the parser parses everything and presents it back to the site builder as an Atom file. an abstract template. And that gets handed off to the HTML generator into the PDF generator.
So you always have them in parallel.
Yeah, and in fact, at the moment, all of the templates are being parsed in parallel using Go channels. And, you know, I'm not sure yet how it's going to behave if you had hundreds of templates that you were parsing simultaneously.
I was meaning more that then you have doublets of the HTML and PDF built in all cases.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. And then I don't have a line here yet, but the build at the end calls the indexer, and it reads the generated site and it builds the index files.
Okay.
Okay. So that's conceptual overview. All right. So let's go over here. So so when it starts out, see, it's in here in doxago. In the commands, you call the build. The build calls site. So here's all the packages. Here's the site package. And in the site package, there we go. It calls this the build method. I should explain. So see, there's a builder struct here. It has the config. It has the resolver that I talked about. It also has the values that have been retrieved, because what I do is I don't load the database into memory, but what I do is as template content is loaded and as database records are loaded, I keep them in memory so we don't have to go back to the file system. So what that means is the first template that's processed takes longer. There's a lot of redundancy in liturgical text. And so the first one takes longer, and then it just gets faster and faster as it goes along. All right. So the build method is called. You're familiar with the difference in Go between methods and functions?
Yeah, although I mean, on a theoretical level, I haven't written much yet, so I'm still learning.
Well, I think the key concept is you have a struct and you attach methods to structs. Even though it uses the keyword func, terminologically, they're called methods. And you know it's a method because it has a receiver, and the receiver is the struct. So if it was just func build, it's a pure function. But if it has a receiver, it's a method.
Okay.
And this is how Go mimics, if you will, classes. All right. So here's the builder, and it does its thing. It's if config copy assets is set, it's going to copy things, and so that's what's going on there. But we're always going to copy the Doxa CSS and the app CSS. That's fast, so we go ahead and do it. I'm setting up the channels for the parallelism, and now we range through all of the templates that match the regular expression. And then for each one, we're going to process the template. So if I go down here, here's what it's calling. And that sets up a new parser and gives it configuration information that it needs. And here's where the magic happens. Let me just set the build for a second here. Set it so that we're just going to do one thing. Where is it? Right there. All right, so we're going to build the liturgy for July 5th. And I've got up here, I've got my run. See, I don't have to go to the command line to run it.
Can I hold on just a second, please?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
So I have my run config set up in here. So like build, you see it's calling, there it is right there. It's calling, remember I said cd into command, doxago and run go, there it is. And it's passing parameters. In this case, it's passing build. So that's how that's set up. And I'm going to go ahead and run the debugger. And what we're going to do is I'm going to stop it right here after it's populated the atom so I can show you what that looks like, because you're going to become intimately familiar in the end with the atom. So here it's doing the build.
Is this the IDE you were talking about, by the way?
Yeah, this is Golang.
G-O-L-A-N?
G-O-L-E-N-D.
D, okay.
Like Disneyland, Goland.
Got it.
Yeah. And actually, it's being a little slow, and I'm not sure why. Usually, when I was just working on the Divine Liturgy for 2 days, it only takes it, it's taking 50 seconds to generate everything, the entire website.
I'm sure these have a flag that detects when you're giving a demo to somebody else.
Oh, I know why it's being slow. It's because I have the debugger on. That automatically slows it down.
Sure.
Yes, of course. Why do we have demos? To uncover the bugs that we didn't find yet. But I do need to look at this. It shouldn't take this long for the debugger. There we go. Okay. So now we have an atom back. And I don't know if you're going to be able to see this, and I don't know how to make it bigger. Can you read this at all?
It's a little small, but yes.
Okay, good. All right. So here's the ID that came from the template. And this right here, I keep track of all of the templates that got inserted along the way. And the reason I do that is, I'll just show you this really quickly. If I come into here, now if I do an inspect element, notice here, it's actually the row right here, it's giving you the template path, how we got to this point, which is useful for debugging. So 1 is our entry point, line 18 in the template, and then it inserted another template that has an ID of 6 and the 6th line in it. And then this says here, column 10 in line 6 of template 6. It also tells us that they requested grgrcog, and sometimes there's a concept of fallback libraries, and in this case it didn't need it. So it's actually telling you the ID that it used. So this is all useful information. Now, how do you know which template number 1 and number 6 is? If you go up to the head, there it is right there.
Okay.
So like here's template 16, block selector, selector antiphons, antiphon to BL specific day. So this is really useful for debugging information. All right, so let's go back here. So that's what these are. I'm keeping, I created 2 maps, templates by ID and templates by number, and I'm using those as I go along the way, building those up so that when I generate the HTML, that information is embedded in there. Here's, it's a service. Because it is a service, the office type is liturgy, status, calendar, you can set it to Gregorian or otherwise. Month, day, and year. Here's the CSS for the HTML, which you don't care about. In PDF, which you do care about. Here's the CSS has been loaded for you, and it's in there as a map. And then here are the headers and the footers. So 0 and 1, those would be the left and right. No, those would be, parity is even and odd. Sorry, I said wrong. Parity is even and odd. That's why there's 2 in here. And then left, center, or right. And left and right are nil. And center in here, it has this one is going to be for probably for EN, and this one will be for where is it? It should be saying somewhere. It's going to say.
Yeah, now we're getting into stuff that's difficult to read. Okay.
Anywhere, somewhere in here is going to be the information that you need, whether it's left or right, and things like that. All right. And then the other thing that you need, all right, here's table layouts. This is for EN versus, see, it says acronym EN, acronym GREN. So that these are table layouts for each of the versions that we're doing, or combinations of versions. Down here, versions is where you can do a lookup, because we actually, for hymns and for liturgical readings, we give the acronym of the version that's being used. And that's where this comes from, this map.
Okay.
And then meta rows, you won't need to worry about, but this is the rows that you're going to put in there, but without the actual text. What you want is row layouts, because row layouts, one for each version. So here's the row layout for English. Here's Greek English. It has the actual rows of all the information that you're going to insert. Okay. So theoretically, everything that you need should be in here. And for each row, it has the cells. And there's 3 types of cells. A blank, so it's just going to be an empty row, or a rule, which means it's going to have a line, or it's going to be an actual paragraph. So when we open that up, then it's going to have you know, are you familiar with HTML tables?
Yes.
Okay, so here's the TD prefix and suffix, and you use lookups to get the information. And spans, and even though PDF doesn't have spans, conceptually it has spans, because you can embed a span within a span. So here's the class. In this case, a KVP, you don't format, it's just key value pair. And here's the ID. And what you're going to be interested in then is here is the actual text that you're inserting. And if it has child spans, this would not be nil. If it has child spans, value would be empty. So these two are mutually exclusive.
Okay.
So there'll be a recursion going on in the child spans. And you can look through the HTML code and see how I handled that to get an idea of what you're going to do. Okay, so here we got an atom. And then if it says, if we're going to output HTML, then write HTML. And you see this is actually going to call the generator. And if we're calling PDF, we're going to do that. Now, HTML and PDF output are not in parallel. They're being done sequential. But if in the build, even though the templates are processed in sequence, I'm not writing the HTML on PDF. I'm doing them in sequence. I'm doing them, in parallel. I'm doing them sequentially. In the builder, you can mark output HTML false, so you don't have to wait for that to be done. So here we go. Go write this. I'll go to where it's declared. So we're still in site. And here it's going to range the table layouts. Now remember, the table layout is English, Greek English, English Slavonic, whatever it's going to be. And it's creating a meta PDF. If we go over here, I can go to declaration. So the meta PDF has an atom, has the path out, and the lives, the gen lives that we're doing. And actually, here we go. Here's where you're going to add your code. See, I've got a note to you. So here's where I've stubbed it out. So the text you're seeing right now is right there. Coming soon, stand by till Deacon Jeff does his thing. All right, so here's where you're—
no pressure, right?
Yeah, don't worry. I know you have the brain power to do it, and ask me what you need to know, and you'll do great. You even have suggestions. I'm sure you will. All right, so here's where you're going to add your code, and in this package, you're free to add other stuff. Okay. Now,
okay. Now, just because because the smaller text is difficult to see, can you give me the path to what we are looking at right now?
Yeah, and actually, it's in PKG PDF. No, PKG generator PDF, and I actually have that in your.
Okay, that's it. That is in the note.
Yeah, it's right. It's right here.
Okay.
See, I have it highlighted.
Yep.
Everything's in PKG generators PDF. Now, within this package, you are free to add whatever you need.
Right. And I can look at the parallel in HTML and see what you do there.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. Now, I also, if we get past this stuff, I put some notes in here for you. And the one you want to look at, talk about how you need to embed And I already told you this is what we're using for ages, but for now, we're going to use, for our solution, we're going to use these fonts here.
Okay.
And I also, that's it. That's all I have down there. And I also have a note to you for the Slavonic. Here's the website that they came from.
Mm-hmm.